You know what else still happens?
Oslo. Med-resistant eggs. Oslo's. Med-resistant eggs.
And we are live. How we all doing tonight, folks? I should probably put my headphones in. If I can find them. Oh, here they are. Alrighty. I guess we can get rid of that starting soon. And, so, people in the chat were asking what the music was. Yes, it was Zelda themed. Specifically, it was the remixes off the Wii U Smash Brothers. So, hope you all enjoyed that. Alrighty. And, there's a couple of questions. I want to take callers. If I got anybody interested in calling in, go ahead and message me on the Skype there at the Bechtloff. And obviously on the Discord too. You can message me on there. But there's two questions on my mind. And maybe you all can chime in with this. The first question is about, and maybe some of you trad Catholics in the audience, assuming I have any left, would like to chime in on this. But I was kind of thinking of this today. Now, again, I'm not trying to resurrect drama here, but I had mentioned that someone, a trad Catholic I had talked to, I had said to him that, regarding all the problems in the church, you're not going to do anything. There's nothing you can do. Ultimately, you're just going to sit down and shut up. And this person admitted in the stream that's what they're going to do, because it would be presumptuous of them to raise a stink. And, hell, just today I saw an article that said that the Catholic Church actually spent millions of dollars lobbying how exactly did they put it? Basically, to 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 help cover up their crimes. Let me get the exact quote here from the name of the article. I want to get exactly how they put it. Again, will actually take a look at this article too. This is off the New York Daily News. Catholic Church spent $2 million on major NY lobbying firms to block child sex law reform. So this is still more shenanigans from the Whore of Babylon. So my question, I suppose, and anyone can chime in on this, but specifically I'd love to hear this from Trad Catholics. Where the fuck is the breaking point with you guys? Because see, I understand that your autistic devotion to authority and hierarchy and, sit down and shut up and, all that kind of stuff. I understand that means you're not, you're not inclined to question the leadership. But at what point is enough with you guys? Like, how much can they do where you're just gonna, like, maybe you'll bitch about it, but ultimately you'll roll over like a good boy and you're gonna sit down and you're gonna shut up and you're gonna keep putting that money in the plate each fucking week. And we're about to see where $2 million of it went to. So one of the questions, this is open for callers, Trad Catholics, I guess, front of the line. Where the hell is the line with you guys? How much can the Catholic Church do that you're gonna stand by your man on this? You're gonna stand by him. Where's the line? Is there even one? Is there even one? So that's a question that's open, and a little bit cheerier a question, a little bit lighter topic that I'd like people to call in. Specifically, I'd like some of the younger folks to call in. I know I got some people that are 10, 15, 20 years younger than me. How have you gotten into things that are sort of well before your time? Movies, games, shows, whatever. Like, what are some things you got into that are stuff that was well before your time, and how did you kind of discover it? Because I was thinking of, like, when I was a kid, and all the stuff I used to watch, just on TV that was old stuff, like, I watched reruns of Gilligan's Island when I was a kid. I watched reruns of Get Smart when I was a kid. Great show, by the way. Funny stuff. Obviously I watched reruns of the original Star Trek, kind of parallel to watching Next Gen with my dad. I remember there was a block of cartoons too on in the morning. I think it was TBS or TNT. They had this huge, like, 3-hour block of cartoons in the morning. And it was all just, the cartoon shorts that would be in the theaters back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, I guess even into the 60s. And they would show basically all those Golden Age cartoons that weren't Disney. So not just Looney Tunes. Yeah, you got Looney Tunes in there, but you'd get, like, Popeye. You'd get, all the MGM stuff like Tom and Jerry and Droopy Dog and shit like that. You get, the oddball Woody Woodpecker once in a while, that kind of shit. So it would be interesting to know, like, what are some things you got into that were before your time and how? So those are some topics, if anybody wants to call in, I'd love to hear from. And I know it's the middle of the night, probably not going to get a ton of callers, but I'd like to throw those out there. So getting back to, the Whore of Babylon, which we're going to be talking about quite a bit. Somebody wants to call in. All right. Okay, so we got one caller, but first we're going to take a look at this article. So, let's go ahead and fire up the Windows capture. I guess we'll go ahead and stop the meme show. All right, so this article off the New York Daily News. Exclusive. Catholic Church spent $2 million. $2 million. Keep that in mind, trad Catholics, as you're putting your money in the collection plate each weekend. $2 million on major NY lobbying firms to block child sex law reform. Gee, why would they want to block such a thing? I love the nature of these sites. I get this little ad, because there's all these fucking ads popping up. See, I got this little ass slither that I can read this through. Albany, not leaving it to divine chance. The state Catholic Conference has turned in recent years to some of Albany's most well-connected and influential lobby firms to help block a bill that would make it easier for child sex abuse victims to seek justice. Why would they want to do that? The Catholic Conference, held by Timothy Cardinal Dolan, has used Wilson Elser, whatever, a bunch of lobbyists, communications to lobby against the Child Victims Act, as well as for or against other measures. All told, the conference spent more than $2.1 million on lobbying from 2007 through the end of 2015, state records show. That does not include the conference's own internal lobbying team. Filings show the lobbyists were retained in part to work on issues associated with, quote, statute of limitations, unquote, and, quote, timelines for concerning certain civil actions related to sex offenses. Other issues included patriarchal schooling fund and investment tax credits. Quote, they are willing to spend limitless money in order to basically keep bad guys from being accountable for their actions, said Melanie Blow, chief operating officer of the Stop Abuse campaign. I think they're doing it because they don't want to have to pay out settlements. Why would they need to pay out settlements? I thought the Catholic Church was a bunch of good boys, didn't do nothing. Addict Catherine Robb, an advocate and survivor who said she was abused by her brother as a 9-year-old, if they need to spend that much money on lobbying, clearly then they have some pretty big secrets to hide. Yeah, it does get those almonds activated, doesn't it? While a far cry from the millions in lobbying top special interest spends in Albany each year, advocates for child sex abuse survivors say the $2.1 million spent likely represents a worthwhile investment to the Catholic Conference if it can continue to block legislation that would eliminate the statute of limitations on child sex abuse civil cases and open a 1-year window to bring lawsuits for victims who can no longer sue under the current law. The Catholic Conference has argued that opening a 1-year window to receive old cases could ultimately bankrupt the church. Good. If such a thing could bankrupt the church, then such a thing should bankrupt. I mean, it wouldn't bankrupt the Catholic Church as a whole, but I guess the New York Catholic Church. Think of how fucking shameful your fucking church is that's a statement you openly make. Every one of you fucking trad Catholics, you're useful idiots and you support this, whether you admit it or not. That's about as far as I can get into this. It's late. I don't want to work myself up this late, so fuck it. Is it just me or is B super quiet? Jeez, the shit's turned up all the way, guys. There's nothing I can do. All right. All right, we're gonna go ahead and OBS is just quieter. All right, turn your fucking mic up. There's nothing else I can do for you. Sorry. All right, so we're going to bring in some callers. Hang on a second. Yeah, I know you didn't mean anything by it. It's just I'm hearing it all the time, and there's nothing I can do about it, guys. It's OBS is just quieter, you know. opening up the voice. Okay, that's great. Sorry, folks. Perils of the live stream. Yeah, like I got the settings turned. The shit's turned up all the way, both the mic and the fucking OBS. Hey, how's it going? What's on your mind? Oh, it's tremendously bad. It's far worse. What we know, I guarantee you, what we know is the tip of the iceberg. Oh yeah, it's beyond accurate. I mean, yeah. I mean, they just admit it that if they were actually held, accountable, that if everyone that they abused sued their ass, they admit it. At least the New York Catholic Church, that it would bankrupt them. They admitted that. It boggles my mind. Like they said, they fucking admitted that shit. It's not like somebody speculated that's why they're doing it. They just fucking admitted, like, yeah, we've raped so many fucking kids. You have no idea, man. They'd be coming out of the woodwork like you wouldn't believe. I the real question though, again, and I'm never gonna get an answer from them, because they don't have one. But any trad Catholic, you want to explain to me how the fuck you standing by this, and then more importantly, where is the line? Like, what would get you to finally have some self-respect and say, I cannot have my name associated with this organization any longer? Yeah, if you absolutely have to have the security blanket of my tradition, go be Eastern Orthodox, okay? I'm pretty sure they're not going to go bankrupt from having to pay out people they raped. Oh shit, nobody can hear you. Fucking hell. All right. I've been talking to nobody this whole time. That was my fault. That was a problem in the setting. Okay. They can hear you now.
So, yeah, let's move on to the.
Okay. Well,
So,
you were saying, yeah, like, you were just saying you're amazed at that article.
Yeah, I'm legitimately surprised at how bad these things are. It's like I've been making jokes this whole time, but I didn't think it was this level.
Yeah. I mean, I knew forever that the Catholic Church was this bad. And then, like, I fell into a bunch of trad Catholic friends the last few years, and I wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt. But then it's like, the more you learn, the more you're like, no. This is
Like their biggest concern is that gosh darn metal music and that gothic architecture.
that's no lie. You can get trad Catholics, if the architecture on the church doesn't look like it's 1,000 years old, and if they're playing like drums or a fucking guitar in the worship service, you can get them way more upset about the fact that their priest is raping children. I don't know a better word for it than Pharisees.
Imagine a gay bar renting out their space to a church group, and then the Catholics complaining that's not gothic enough. Fucking damn. So
Yeah, the
yeah,
difference
so
between a Catholic church and a gay bar at this point is the Catholic church only serves one type of alcohol.
yep, just the wine. Well, even then they claim it's blood.
Yeah, that's actually that. I'm kind of. That's one of those things like all the Mary dogmas where I was kind of like, yeah, really? Like, I mean, okay, that's kind of retarded, but all right.
I know on Davis's live stream, like well, the last one, Tom Bombadil went on, and they were basically saying, "Oh yeah, so this is bowing to Mary is basically like saluting the flag," and I'm like, "Okay, well that's one thing, except you think she never died? She never fucked her own husband. She never
Yeah,
felt
that's
pain
that's
during
just downright.
childbirth."
That's not even like a. That's not even a theological thing, but the she never fucked her own husband thing is utterly retarded. First of all, by Catholic standards, it makes it a sham marriage.
Yeah,
But it's fucking retarded. It's just on so many levels, it's the dumbest shit I ever heard. And
it, it's like God designed her to have that type of experience with her husband, yet she doesn't use it.
yeah, not having sex in marriage is a sin. Like I don't. It specifically says in the Bible you do not, you don't. I know I'm quoting the Bible. That's like the fucking, that's like 10th on the fucking list of things for them. But it specifically says in the Bible you don't deny your spouse, sex, unless it's you both agree on it for a specific length of time for the purposes of fasting. Otherwise, you make yourself sexually available to your spouse. That's a duty as a husband or a wife.
And what also gets me is why does Mary care that I exist to pray to her? I don't know. I can understand praying to Jesus, but what is Mary? Why would Mary care to answer my prayers?
Christ, they pray to her more than Jesus. It's like the three members of the Trinity are like, I don't even know if they crack the top 10 of things Catholics pray to. It's like Mary's number one, just full stop, number one.
It's
And
like
then
I've
there's
heard
got to
so
be
many.
like a dozen fucking saints in front of Christ there.
It's like I've heard so many Hail Marys during Davis's Rosary live stream, and I'm like, why?
I don't know. I don't want to be picking on Davis all the
I'm
time.
not gonna.
But
Yeah, I don't want to talk about him either.
I,
But
I
it's
don't,
more
but I do want to
it
be picking on fucking Catholics. Fuck them.
it's more the prayer itself, not so much him. I just don't know why they have to scream Hail Mary every 5 seconds.
Again, not to be hammering it home, but like this, I think this is one of the first times and I don't know how indicative of it is, and I watched like 5 minutes of it because life's too short. But I watched 5 minutes of Davis's prayer stream, and I was just like, I don't know. There's two Matthew. I think it's Matthew 6:6 to 6:7 came to mind, where it's Christ said, don't let your prayers be just chanting vain repetition like the pagans, and also when you pray, don't make a spectacle of it. Go into your room and close the door. And to be fair, I don't particularly like when evangelicals, in particular, they're guilty of this. When they like to make a big ass fucking spectacle of prayer. What was that? The National Day of Prayer. It's like the first Thursday in May or some shit. I remember even
Yep.
back to high school when it would be like, all the Christian kids making a big spectacle, getting around the flag and having their fucking drum circle, and it's just cringy and fucking embarrassing.
Yep. And I grew up in a charismatic church long enough to see a lot of spectacle prayers going on.
Somebody in the chat says Mary has appeared around the world legitimately. Like, okay, I haven't gotten a straight answer on this. I've asked some cat like, do they actually? Is it aberrant? Because I know there are at least some Catholics have told me they don't believe Mary died because she was without sin. She was without the curse of sin. So that's why childbirth was just a breeze for her too. Apparently, without sin, your muscles can stretch like Mr. Fantastic, and it just doesn't cause you any pain.
Why wasn't Mary strung up on the cross?
Yeah, really. I don't. Why are we cutting out? Why don't we just cut out the middleman here? But I've heard them say like she never died and she just ascended like straight up into heaven. And then like I've heard some of them say she's just walking the earth. Like I don't know if she's like Mary. Is it like the beginning of the fucking Hulk TV show where it's like Mary isn't dead, but she must allow the world to believe she is until she can control the monstrous rage within. I mean, like,
Yeah,
there's nothing at this point that they could tell me that would be like, but I'd be like, okay, yeah, that, sure.
I have a legitimate question for Ninja Master. What does he mean by her appearing around the world?
Is that like
Did
when
her-
Mexicans see her in a tortilla? Because I know that
Did
happens
her-
all the fucking time.
Did her shade show up like when Jesus appeared to the apostles after the crucifixion? What does that mean?
She just wandering the earth. Just
I don't know. Yeah.
it's just. Again, Mary's the star of Catholic theology. Mary is the star. Mary is the center of it. All right.
She's only in so many books, but for some reason they seem pretty obsessed. At least as far as theology is concerned.
Yeah, I don't get. Like, I used to think that calling Catholics Mary worshippers was like shit posting from like Protestants and all. It's like, no, yeah, that's what's going on. Okay, so Ninja Master says it has to be investigated by the church and it takes years. So I should take the word of the same organization that's spending $2 million to help cover up child rape?
How
I'm
did they
gonna take their
investigate
fucking-
that?
Yeah, I can think of some other things internally they need to be investigating. How about that? Like, why should I take the word of the Catholic Church? That's another question. Like, all you Catholics that you view the institution of the Catholic Church as some sort of inherent authority to be trusted. Why?
I'm
Think
legit
of
wondering.
what we know. We know for a fact that they will lie to you, that they will go so far as to obstruct justice and lobby the government to make it easier to do so, to cover up their wrongdoings. And this is an organization you trust? Well, they investigated it and they said it's true. Well, hot damn, why am I even doubting it then? If I can't trust a bunch of pedophilic communists, who can I trust in this world after all? Why do you trust them? That's another question I'd love to ask Trad Catholics. Why do you trust that organization?
And he's saying that the church has to investigate whether Mary's done whatever this is. He's saying they have to investigate it for years. How do they investigate that, especially these types of people? I don't.
Well, she appeared to me one time when I was playing Sega, and she showed me how to do the debug code in Sonic the Hedgehog, where you can turn them into a ring and go anywhere in the stage. It's just she did that, or maybe I just read that in a book how to do it. I don't. Who knows? Who knows? Let's launch an investigation here, because why not?
How you look at Catholics is how atheists look at Christians. Okay. I mean,
How you look at Catholics is how atheists look at Christians. In all fairness, like every single like shit post about Christianity in general, there's an old saying that everything feminists say about men is true when you consider the type of men they are around. You know what I mean? In other words, everything feminists say about men is true when you only apply it to male feminists, right? Well,
feel like
likewise, everything atheists say about Christianity is true if you only apply it to Catholics.
I do feel like a lot of the atheists that have been around probably have been around some pretty crazy evangelicals too, though. Because it's like, the stereotypical evangelicals who think everything's satanic.
Somebody says, actually, Bechtloff, the Catholic Church debunkers are hardcore and interesting to look into. So if they can't debunk something and call it a miracle, it's usually explained they are paid to debunk, so they can't. means it really out there? Like, well, again, I can think of some other things the Catholic Church might want to be investigating internally. Maybe if they applied half that much scrutiny to figuring out which of their priests are raping children as they do to whether or not Mary appeared in a tortilla in fucking San Juan, maybe we could get somewhere. Maybe just saying. We'll call the Catholic Mythbusters out there to figure out which one of the altar boys was raped and by who. How about that?
Race Jacobson's last comment is what I was getting at. The Ken Ham creationists, though I'm sure a lot of atheists have had a bit too much of those guys.
Well, in all fairness, I'm not I'm not a fan of Ken Ham. Though really the whole Mary didn't have pain in childbirth thing is sort of an extension of the Ken Ham literal creationism. The curse, taking the curse literally and all on a biological level. I'm not on board with the Ken Ham creationist type. I'm just not. I don't think it holds water. Believe me, my theology would be a lot easier if I thought it did, but I just don't. I don't think it holds water. I'm sorry. Yeah. So he says it's not toast and such. It has to be legit miracles. Well, at this point, it would be a miracle if the Catholic Church could stop raping children. Can we perform that miracle, perhaps?
All they have to do is penalize the pedophiles instead of moving them to new parishes, like the Eastern Orthodox Church does.
Just turn them into the law, all right? It's not like there's anywhere on this world the Catholic Church is operating in some barren, lawless hellscape or something. Like, just turn them into the local authorities. Like, hey, yeah, this guy was raping children.
Like, at this point, the Catholic priesthood is a gay profession. Because half of them are gay, and then another third's hiding it. Is that it?
I mean, that's even before I get into like the ridiculous theology. It's just like half, between 15 and 50% of your total leadership structure are practicing homosexuals. Like, that's before I get into your stupid theology. Like, holy shit.
Like, they're busting gay orgies in the Vatican of all places.
What was the meme Race Jacobson said? It's one of the memes I scroll through here, where it's the Catholic Church is part of the gay community. Yeah, it is.
Or at least our leadership is.
Playing devil's advocate, but what if they're afraid of being Cosby'd? Like they said, fuck it, these guys did it, leave us alone, and then millions of people show up with their hands out. Well, I mean, nobody ever said doing the right thing is easy, okay? Nobody ever said it was.
I feel like it'd be pretty quick to call the cops.
Yeah. Are you more concerned with the institution, or are you more concerned with the fact that a priest is raping children? But I mean, I know what the answer is with Catholics. They worship the institution, so.
Man. And so,
Ninja Master said something interesting here. She said, homosexuality is the root problem of the crisis, and few have said that now. Well, he's kind of right and he's kind of wrong.
I don't think it is.
He's kind of right and he's kind of wrong. It's the root cause of this particular infection. Let's put it that way. But the nature of the Catholic Church has allowed that infection to both spread, completely metastasize, and the nature of the Catholic Church prevents the infection from being treated. The nature of the Catholic Church, where the leadership is to be obeyed and never questioned, means that once the leadership is compromised, well, you better hope you're the one true church, because nothing short of divine intervention is going to fix that shit.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The reason there's so many gays in the priesthood is because the Catholic Church made it safe for them to get in there. They wouldn't be there unless they thought they could get away with hiding whatever it is they're doing. Yeah. But yeah, so as far as entertainment is concerned, so I was raised to basically think that anything R-rated is not pure because I was raised all religious and stuff. So when I got out of that mentality, I pretty much started watching all the raunchier stuff like South Park and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So South Park, Team America. I'm probably gonna start watching Futurama and The Simpsons now that I've seen Disenchanted. That'll be fun.
Futurama's great. You really can't go wrong with Futurama. Simpsons, season one's kind of rough. There was a novelty of it at the time. I would almost say start with season two.
Yeah, I think I
Um,
got halfway through The Simpsons season one,
it's
and
kind
that
of rough.
I dropped it at some point.
Yeah, start like season three is when it really picks up steam. Season about 3 to 8 is just the golden age of the show, and
Mhm.
after season 8, it really should have ended, and it's at like season 54 or some shit now. So I
So
don't,
like, yep.
no
I
lie, I
feel like
think
that's
it's
how
close to 30.
I feel like that's how Disenchanted's gonna be. It feels like it has potential, but it's needs more episodes to really develop. I don't know.
Futurama's great, and it had a lot of heart. Futurama was just fantastic.
When
Um,
does that one pick up? Which season does that one pick up in? Is it
I would say with Futurama, you want to start from the beginning, um, just because there's a lot of depth and plot threads that matter. Continuity, oddly enough, really matters in Futurama. Um, there's a lot of things in later seasons that bring things introduced in season one to a logical conclusion. It's yeah, I would just say plow through all of Futurama. And the first season of Futurama isn't rough like the first season of Simpsons.
like Matt Groening must have been getting used to how to run a show at that point when he was doing The Simpsons.
I mean, yeah, you have to remember Simpsons started out with little shorts in the Tracy Ullman show, and then all
He
of a
also
sudden they
pitched
just
it at the last second too. Like he
yes,
had no plans for it at all.
yeah.
Well, and Race Jacobson's here. What have you been wanting to say?
What's
Oh, I
up?
was going to make a joke when we were still talking about the Catholic stuff, but that by the time I joined, you'd already changed the topic.
Uh,
What was your joke?
Oh, the joke was only Priest Irini can exorcise the pedo demons from the Vatican.
That's probably true.
but yeah, Futurama's great. I mean I watched a shit ton of Futurama because when it was canceled for a little while, I used to watch the reruns on Comedy Central and Adult Swim.
Did they bring it back and start doing new episodes like they did with
Well,
Family Guy, or
they
was
they
it?
brought it back as like movies, which would then get like split up into like 4-part episodes. Basically, I think it's season 4 is basically like 4 movies that get split up into like, or maybe it's like 3 movies that get split up into like 4-parters. Bender's Big Score is fantastic. Um, and again, it got split up into 4-parters. Um, but it's fantastic because originally they didn't realize they were coming back. They just got the green lit for a movie, so that was kind of going to be the send off. Bender's Big Score is fantastic. But even that, even though it went on after what was originally intended to be the end, it ended up still having a satisfying proper end.
So there was technically 7 seasons. They had started that around season 4.
Yeah, it was like it had 3 seasons and it was kind of canceled for a little while and then it kind of came back. Um, it is one of those things along with it. It and Family Guy, Adult Swim basically revived. Like people forget Family Guy was canceled for like 3 years.
And now difference is Family Guy doesn't have anything good on it anymore.
Family Guy's hit or miss. It's still decent. I mean, it's
I
not
heard
it's
it.
not great. It's one of those things where it's like, I'll watch it if I think to watch it, but I'm not upset if I miss it, kind of thing. Like if I'm just like, every once in a while I'll check the on demand, see if there's been new ones, and I'll watch them. Sometimes they're funny as shit. They did one recently where it was like it was three little shorts, and each short was like quote unquote done by a different director. So they had one that was like a parody of like oh god, what's the guy, Tarantino, and then like a parody of Michael Bay and a parody of some French director I'm not familiar with. Um, but funny shit, man. It's like at the beginning, because that's the other thing. Seth MacFarlane's kind of a shitlord. Like he's a bit of a shitlib, but he's sort of old '90s shitlib. Like he's pretty sexist. He has just open contempt for transsexuals. Like he, like there's a
Like-
line in that director episode where Peter's like, "We decided we'd do the same story. Peter Griffin gets fired, but allow three classic directors to each give his, let's face facts, folks, his take on the story."
Wait, is he still openly against transsexuals, or is that a thing that changed over time?
I mean, I don't think
just-
he's ever openly said it, but like if you watch Family Guy and you watch how trannies are referenced in the show, yeah, he just shits on them hardcore. Like there's like Quagmire's dad becomes a tranny, right? He comes out as a woman trapped in a man's body and gets a sex change operation, and Brian the dog ends up fucking him, right? Because he didn't know. And
He didn't figure it out until later.
when Brian finds out, he throws up for like a minute straight. And then they reference that in a later episode, like the two of them are in a room together, and Stewie is looking at him, and Stewie just looks at the tranny and goes, "Brian threw up when he found out you were a monster."
Ooh, ooh.
Like it's just open contempt for. Yeah, Family Guy's still worth watching. It's not that it's definitely hit or miss. It's not at its stride, but it's better
feel
than
like
a million things that are on. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
even a bad Family Guy episode is still better than most of the shit out there.
Oh yeah.
I feel like my main issue with Family Guy is the cutaways. So it's just, most of the episode they're just these tiny cutaway gags.
See, everyone shits on the cutaways, and like it's just like what was it? The South Park guys were all fart huffing about how the cutaways are dumb, and like, oh, that's not legitimate comedy. Legitimate comedy should come from the story. It's like, first of all, can you imagine how hard those things are to write? Like you have to have setup and payoff in like fucking 15 seconds. All right, like 30 seconds tops. You know what I mean? Those things aren't easy to write, okay? And then they come up with a bunch of them in mass, and then they send them to the censors, and there's a whole ton of them that don't even make it to the censors. Like at one point, Seth MacFarlane literally put out a DVD that was nothing but like Family Guy cutaway gags he couldn't put on TV.
Oh, wait, how bad did those get?
Oh, they're just, but, yeah, I like Family Guy. I like the structure of Family Guy. I like the cutaway gags. Yeah, they're quick little rapid fire jokes, but they're fucking funny, man. Like, oh, just off the top of my head, there's one where it's like, this is worse than the time Godzilla attacked Haiti, and you just see the island is just complete in ruin, right? Like buildings are on fire and everything, and then Godzilla comes out of the water, and he's like roaring, and he looks at the island, and he goes, "Oh God," and it just like backs back up into the water. Like, that shit's fucking funny, man. They did one bit one time where it showed, like, what the Family Guy people do when there's a cutaway, right? And, like, it shows Peter set up a cutaway. And, like, then they all just, like, start checking their phones. And Peter pulls out a cigarette and starts smoking. And Lois is like, "Do you have time to smoke?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah, it's going to be a long one. It's an Al Harrington's." Like, that shit's just funny, man. I like Family Guy. I think people unfairly shit on it.
How are they compared to the first episode? Because that's the only one of the only two I watched.
Well, again, it's really not fair to judge shows by the pilot. A lot of times I have found that shows I've even loved, the pilots are rough. They're rough, man. The first season of Family Guy is kind of rough in general.
That's generally the first season of any show out there, cartoon, real life, or otherwise.
Oh yeah, this the pilots are often unwatchable in hindsight, and I mean, hell, as a Star Trek fan, I mean, hell, there's like 3 episodes in the first season of TNG that are remotely worth watching, and that's if I count the pilot as 2 episodes. It's the pilot and Conspiracy are the only things in season 1 that you should watch. The rest of it is absolute garbage.
Yeah. To be fair, though, the Stargate SG-1 pilot did actually have tits in it, so that was nice.
The DS9 pilot's pretty good. It's damn good. They've really pulled out all the stops on that. In fact, they sort of blew their budget wad for the whole season, and that's why season 1's kind of shit.
It's still fair to judge High Guardian Spice by the trailer, though, right?
I think it's fair to judge High Guardian Spice by the creators.
Well,
Like,
that
there's
is the
nothing
trailer.
like okay, like the actual like bits of the cartoon. It sort of looked a little too dumb, Cal Arts woke and all. But the moment I saw the creators, I'm like, I just started. I literally started laughing. I hadn't seen it at all. And as soon as I saw like the first one, I'm like, ha 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 ha! Ha. Look at this shit.
I feel bad for the old lady at the beginning of that trailer because she's the one running the studio, and she's the only one who brought up how she likes to go back to 2D hand-drawn animation.
Well,
Now she just
somebody in the
really wanted.
chat said it best. It's like failed. It's like shitty art teacher grabbed her most untalented woke students and made a cartoon.
Yeah, pretty much. 'Cause she runs this studio, and those are the people working for her.
Like that just. Oh man.
Which she probably hand selected them, let's be real.
And selected them with rubber gloves.
Somebody says the moment when a shitlib is a bigger shitlord than the centralist South Park creators. I was a defender of South Park for a very long time, and I'll tell you when I just had enough and I washed my hands of it. What was it? A season or two? I guess it was 2 seasons ago now, when they quote unquote were going to go after the social justice warriors, and they had like the PC principal character and all. That was so pussyfooting around. And then they go after the election and they want to be like, Donald Trump's dumb and Hillary Clinton's smart but kind of corrupt, but Donald Trump's dumb. And it was just such basic bitch shit that it just sort of completely lost my respect for them. And it because I kind of respected those guys. I respect the ballsy comedian. You know what I mean? I always respect that. Even if I disagree with them. If you really have balls as a comedian, I respect the hell out of that. But once you pussy out on me, once you drop the balls, so to speak, then I'm done with you, man. Like, I'll be honest with you, and it's unpopular to say in this corner of the interwebs, I kind of liked Amy Schumer when she first came out. Like 10 years ago, now it was. But the first few Amy Schumer bits I ever heard, I thought they were funny as hell. Like, she's up there, she's joking about fucking abortion and shit, and half the audience is uncomfortable. I love shit like that, man. Like, she got out there, she did this bit that the audience was just fucking uncomfortable with. She's all like, she's sitting there, she's talking about how much, like, liquor she had pounded before the show, and then she goes, well, I have to drink more because I'm drinking for 2, and she pats her stomach, and then she goes, well, for now, somebody's getting evicted. And the audience was just like uncomfortable. And that makes it even funnier to me, right? Like, I love that kind of shit. Like, I like fucking with my audience. Like, I think, and I'm going to say this because I think everybody's going to forget about it. I think come April 1st next year, I'm going to do an hour stream of nothing but the fucking meme roll starting soon and then shut the stream down. Like, I'm going to see how long I can get people to sit through the fucking meme roll. Because that shit's just funny to me, right? And I liked Amy Schumer when she first came out. And then, I guess it was around 2012, I noticed I'll tell you the moment I was done with her. This was like 2012. Somebody was on Twitter, and they had a parody account entitled Amy Schumer's Vagina, right? And like the bio said that its hobbies were HPV and penis, right? and it would tweet at Amy Schumer stuff like, "You need to wash me. I smell like the dumpster behind Red Lobster." Right now, that's fucking funny. Now, if Amy Schumer was the kind of comedian she pretended to be, she would have thought that shit was funny and she would have been retweeting it, right? But no, she went to Twitter support and whined about it as harassment and got that account banned.
Gosh, I hate
That's
Twitter.
the thing, man. If you can't take a joke, you got no business telling one. Okay. You know, a female comedian that was great back in the day was Lisa Lampanelli. Like, she would purposely have the whole front row. Like, she'd handpick the people to sit in the front row, and it would be like a Mexican and a black and some gay looking dude or something, just so she could just rip on each one of them, right? And that shit was funny as hell. But like, she could take a joke. Like, you'd see her at like the Comedy Central roasts and all, and she never got mad or anything. Can you imagine what an Amy Schumer roast would be like? That bitch would walk out like 5 minutes into it. She wouldn't be able to handle the bands. Like, Mundane Matt has a better ability to handle the bants than fucking Amy Schumer.
Oh man, I think I'd rather watch Mundane Matt.
Like, and that's the thing. Like, if you can't take a joke, you got no business telling one, man. That's the biggest thing about it. Like, I can't stand that in a comedian. You know, when Amy Schumer wants to demand to be treated like a lady when she built her career joking about having HPV. Get fucked.
Yeah. She's bad at delivery too, because you know how she'd steal a ton of jokes and then she'd do a very bad job at telling them.
Oh
like,
yeah,
they're funnier when you listen
yeah.
to the original.
Yeah, I
comedian.
remember. Yeah, she stole a bunch of Patrice O'Neill jokes.
she ripped off a ton of David Tell as well.
I believe there's other female comics she ripped off too, as well. Although some of that I think was also part of the sketch comedy show that she had. So we could probably say it was the writers who were ripping them off instead of her because she doesn't write the scripts for that show. But yeah, still.
But again, you know what the thing about it is? The thing is all like, I mean, I find if somebody's really good at delivery, I don't mind if the jokes are really, really similar to other jokes, even if they're ripping them off. Because you can tell the same joke two different ways, and it's almost like two different jokes, you know? And I mean, Amy Schumer shows that in a negative way, in that she'll just, regurgitate some David Tell shit I heard 10 years ago, and it falls completely flat because she doesn't really know what she's doing, you know? Oh man, David Tell was so fucking funny back in the day. That guy was hilarious. But yeah,
It's weird. It's weird that nobody got on her case about it, but yet everybody and their grandma got on fucking Mencia.
Oh yeah, they crucified Mencia, and there was way less to go on Mencia. There was way less examples of it with him.
Right.
But in all honesty, the reason
he did straight up admit to it, though. He did straight up admit to it.
Well, he did, but I contend the reason that they crucified Mencia is because he was a bit of a shitlord in a lot of respects. I mean, he wasn't full on red pilled or nothing, but compared to a lot of his peers, he was like Seth MacFarlane shitlord. So they were just looking for an excuse to fuck him.
I do remember one bit that he had on his sketch comedy show, Mind of Mencia. They had the fucking that weird like racist Olympics or whatever, where they had to have like a crossing the border obstacle course where you had to like grab a duffel bag and jump over a wall and shit, and then the watermelon eating contest and shit. That was great.
I mean, Mind of Mencia was always sort of a poor man Chappelle show, but it was really funny.
It filled the gap when the Chappelle show canceled.
The other guy that they basically run out of town, and it's weird because I mean he still sells out like a motherfucker, is the guy with all the puppets, Jeff Dunham.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he still does shows all over the country, and I mean he sells out like instantly.
He does world tours now.
But you never see him on TV anymore. Like, he had a show on Comedy Central that was somebody at Comedy Central just fucking hated him, man. I don't know what it was.
And it was just weird because his show is all of his stand-up specials are still syndicated.
I
on
mean, I keep hearing
on
his
Comedy
stuff was
Central.
racist or something, but what the fuck does that even mean anymore?
I kind of don't care at this point.
I miss when Comedy Central had balls, man. Like 15 years ago, Comedy Central was the thing to watch. Like if I turned on my TV at any given moment, unless I was specifically planning on watching something, that was the first channel I checked. Now, man, Comedy Central's, ugh, jeez.
Yeah. Really, the only place to get comedy anymore is at your local comedy club or Netflix. That's it.
Well, YouTube.
I
Yeah,
have
that too.
trouble even finding stuff on Netflix. You mean stand-up?
Yeah, stand-up mainly.
Oh, stand-up's basically dead.
Because the only thing I watched on Netflix was Bo Burnham's stand-up, and it kind of sucked. The new one.
I haven't seen the most recent one. How new is it? By the way, I've only seen 2 of them.
It was probably came out a year or 2 ago.
I probably didn't see it.
But yeah, it's just Bo Burnham making. It feels like the culture's shifted, and he doesn't know how to tell jokes to it. I don't know.
Yeah, the left killed. It killed stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
Because the handful that are still in it, that still know how to do it, are afraid to do it. Essentially, you know, I mean, like Chris Rock and Jerry Seinfeld, you know, legends from decades ago. They won't do it anymore. They're like, no, it's not worth it. I don't need some fucking blue hair calling me racist.
They get heckled on their kids' college campuses.
Yeah, imagine that. Some fucking dweeb who writes for, you know, Salon is gonna tell Jerry Seinfeld what humor is. It's like the shittiest thing that Jerry Seinfeld ever did is better than 90% of what's on Comedy Central. I'd rather watch B-movie on continuous loop for the rest of my fucking life than watch something from Comedy Central one time anymore.
What does Jerry Seinfeld say that's offensive anyways? I feel like he's a more G-rated comedian.
Yeah, he was. He always was. He was like, you know, what's the deal with peanuts on the airplane? Like, and it was funny because of his delivery was great. Jerry Seinfeld was honestly always kind of a better comedic actor than he was a stand-up comic. But yeah, there's nothing offensive about it.
I feel like he's not offensive enough.
From what I hear, he's mainly only ever close to being offensive when he does interviews, because you know he doesn't have, you know, he's not in character basically. Because in real life he swears like a motherfucker. From what I hear.
Somebody says, I used to love Louis C.K., but his last special was utter dog shit. It was really depressing. Louis C.K. was funny as hell at first, and then yeah, something happened to him, man. He got cucked like a motherfucker. I don't know what happened to that guy.
I think his last good special was when he was doing The Round, because he had this one joke about you know, about all these bad things that are actually good things. He's like, and at one point he's like, slavery is the worst thing that ever happened, and everybody starts booing, and I was like, oh, you clapped at fucking kids dying of peanut allergy. You're in this with me now.
Yeah, he had a bit where he said, like, I have these lines of thinking where I call them, of course, but maybe.
Yeah, that was.
And he's like, of course slavery is bad, but maybe all the really cool shit throughout history was made with slaves. Maybe there's just something about when you have a whole group of people and you don't give a fuck about them and you just throw enough death and human suffering at something, that's how the pyramids get made.
Yeah, that wasn't not too long ago either. That was like, what, 2013?
And he's like, and don't tell me you don't like slavery. Like, pull out your fucking iPhone. Guess what? Bunch of Chinese slaves made that shit.
I just want to say that for clarification, Steve Jobs did nothing wrong.
Who we got in there now?
I prefer to say
He founded Apple. Of course, he did something wrong.
Ooh.
You're talking to a Mac user here.
Yeah, that's the problem.
I would say his gay fucking turtleneck is the worst thing he did. Somebody says, remember Dane Cook? I kind of like Dane Cook at first. Like, Everett, that's another guy that, like, everybody just instantly turned on. It's so weird when there's, like, these celebrities that, like, for, like, a hot minute, everybody loves them, and then just, like a light switch, everybody decides they hate them. What the hell is that? Who's doing that? Stop that.
Loud noises.
Yeah, let's not. Yeah, we're not. It's. But yeah, I thought some Dane Cook bits were funny as shit when he first came out. And I know a lot of people are like, yeah, the jokes aren't that funny. It's just that he yells them in goofy ways that make people laugh. I'm like, so what? Like, okay, so you're saying most of his bit was delivery. So what?
As his stuff, to be fair, his stuff did not age very well.
Does Brian Regan still do work?
Brian Regan. I don't know who that is.
Place that off the top of my head.
He's a clean comedian, but he's extremely good at what he does.
I can't place him.
No?
You know who flat out disappeared, and he said he was going to disappear too, is Ron White. Like, remember the redneck, you know, with the what did he call that? Where it was like Ron White and
the Blue
Jeff
Collar
Foxworthy.
Comedy
There
Tour.
you go. Yeah, remember like the Blue Collar Comedy Tour? Like Ron White was the funniest guy of those four by a wide margin.
Oh yeah.
Like Larry the Cable Guy is funny for a little bit at first. Jeff Foxworthy stopped being funny in the 90s. Bill Engvall has never been in the same zip code as something funny in his fucking life. Like, if you're a fan of Bill Engvall, you might be Bill Engvall. You talk about clean comedian. And you know what's sad about Bill Engvall? The one time he was really funny was one of those Comedy Central roasts where he actually cut loose. And it's like, damn it, if you weren't trying to be G-rated all the time, you'd be fucking funny. But anyways, Ron White had a bit one time where he talked about how he'd married some chick and her parents were really rich, right? And he says, and they hate me, and I'm waiting on them to die. And he goes, and you'll know when they die, too, because you'll never see my fat ass again.
Yeah, that was like way back in like 2002, wasn't it?
Oh, no. It was like 03, 04 when those guys were big. And like, because there was then like a Blue Collar Comedy Tour like TV show for a little while.
Yeah.
Like, he was talking, this was like 05, probably his last really big bit. And they kept, because like he'd appear on that show once in a while. But he was very rarely on it, and people would ask him, and he goes, and the reason is because I'm lazy and I don't want to do it. Like, his whole bit was talking about how he's lazy as fuck, and like he can't wait till he gets the big fat payout and he can be rich for the rest of his life and never have to work again. And sure enough, it was like that was like the last we ever saw of him.
Seems like he just did a fucking comedy special not too long ago.
He might do stuff once in a while, just like out of boredom. But like, I guess he reached a point where he didn't have to work anymore, so he just kind of stopped.
That Social Security money started coming in.
Well, I mean, according to him, you know, his wife's parents were rich. I guess they keeled over and left him.
Yeah,
with a
but he's
shitload of
been
money.
like divorced and remarried like 5 times or something.
I don't
So
know.
it's probably not even the same wife.
I don't know, but he was funny as hell, man. He was by far the funniest motherfucker, and that was both the actual jokes themselves and his delivery were just spot on.
Oh yeah, he hasn't done anything in like 6 years. Jeez, I just checked on Wikipedia.
I remember, like, I think they were roasting either Jeff Foxworthy or Larry the Cable Guy. I can't remember which on Comedy Central, but like Greg Giraldo, and that's a funny motherfucker we lost too early. But he was shitting on Bill Engvall, and he was talking about how many albums Bill Engvall had out. And he goes, damn it, Bill, you are one prolific motherfucker. Have you ever thought about just saying something unfunny without recording it?
Ooh.
Those roasts were fantastic, man. Like, I didn't even care who they were doing. They were hilarious.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
the funniest one was there was like a Pamela Anderson roast at one point, and it was alright.
Oh god.
But
I
then
remember.
a couple years later, there was a David Hasselhoff, I think it was, roast, right? And Pamela Anderson was in the audience. And I guess because it wasn't her roast, there probably wasn't like any restrictions on what they could say. So it became just the really, really hardcore shit on Pamela Anderson hour. Like somebody said something to her at one point where it's like, you've banged Tommy Lee, Dennis Rodman, and some other skeezy guy. And he just looks at her, he goes, why don't you just save yourself the time and trouble and drink a vial of Magic Johnson's blood? Oh, man. Those roasts were funny as hell, man. One of the best bits was when Norm Macdonald decided to troll the whole fucking roast. He was a guest on one of these roasts, right? And Norm Macdonald is shitlord to the max. And Norm Macdonald is ignoring everybody who's shitting on him. And he pulls out a newspaper and starts reading it. And somebody made some joke about him. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry, I was trying to find something actually funny, so I was looking at Marmaduke. And then he got up there, and he like, I don't know how to describe it. You almost have to watch it. Like, he purposely bombed. Like, just to troll the whole fucking room. Like, it was so weird. And I love that kind of shit. I love that kind of shit where it's like a joke almost at the audience's expense. I adore that kind of shit. Like, because at first I'm like, what are you doing, Norm? You're fucking bombing. And then I realize what he's doing, and I'm like, this is fucking genius. Like, this is amazing. Oh man, Norm Macdonald was the best. He went on The View one time and called Bill Clinton a murderer. Like, he went on it was right after, I think, either W had just been elected or he had just been sworn in. I can't remember, right? But he said something. No, W had just been elected, right? But he hadn't been sworn in. Bill Clinton was still the president. W was president-elect. And they asked Norm something about it. And he's supposed to be on The View, like, pimping some shitty sitcom he was doing at the time, right? And he goes, yeah, I think the new guy will be a little better. You know, there'll be a little less scandals, you know, not so much of the intern stuff and probably a lot less murdering people. And just everybody just freaked out because like The View is like set, at least back then I think it was like live. It was on like a couple minute tape delay if somebody swears or something, but that was it. And like Barbara Walters is trying to shut him up and all, and he just goes, "What? The president's a murderer? I thought that was on record." Oh man, Norm was fucking awesome. Oh dude, there was one bit, I think it was like Conan. Norm Macdonald was on fucking Conan, right? And so there was an actress on with him that I can't remember her name. She was some blonde chick. I think she was in like Melrose Place, but she was in a movie with Carrot Top called Chairman of the Board, right? In which Carrot Top plays a surfer who somehow becomes a CEO because it's a Carrot Top movie and it's a piece of shit. But she is on there promoting this movie, and Norm Macdonald was like the first guest, and then you know how those shows used to go where like he'd sit to the other end of the couch, and then she'd sit right by the desk with Conan and all, and he kept really like interrupting her interviews and just like shitting on this movie, right? And he's just constantly interrupting her and talking about how the movie probably sucks and it's gonna bomb. And he's like, so is chairman of the board spelled BORED? Like just shit like that. And she's trying to keep it together and like, cause she knows it's a piece of shit. She knows she's out there trying to promote some absolute piece of garbage. You know what I mean? And he's forcing her to just break the fucking character. Dude, it was so good. There is another bit where he was hosting Saturday Night Live after he had left the show, right? And he just starts talking about all this internal politics at Saturday Night Live, about how, like, it's so weird that they asked me to host because a couple years ago they fired me because they said I wasn't funny enough to be on the show. So that begs the question, did I get funnier or did the show get worse? Trust me, the show got way worse. Like, there's this one guy, oh, you'll see him. Like, he just goes off on shit like that all the time. That's probably why the guy does, like, nothing anymore. Like people are just afraid to hire this guy or bring him on the show or something. Because, like, he just doesn't give a fuck. His weekend update was probably the best thing Saturday Night Live ever did. I mean, hell, it was certainly the best weekend update. I mean, fucking Dan Aykroyd and is probably the only one that ever came close to being as good as him. But Norm Macdonald's weekend update was the absolute best.
You guys remember Will Sasso and Mad TV?
Oh yeah, I used to love Mad TV. But yeah, Mad TV was great. And see, Mad TV had the good decency to fuck off when they ran out of shit. You know, they didn't. It's not like Saturday Night Live where its shambling corpse shows up every weekend to embarrass everybody.
Speaking of Saturday Night Live, the one skit I remember that I've just watched a video of recently was the one on it was a perfume. Oh yeah, Red Flag perfume with what's her name? The blonde girl, Wiggin or something.
And Amy Poehler was on Saturday Night Live. Kristen Wiig. I really don't know like anybody who was on Saturday Night Live past like 10 years.
This was like from okay. This skit was from 2013.
Oh well, then I definitely wouldn't know shit. Like
In the chat reel.
I think like mid 2000s was the last I ever gave a shit about Saturday Night Live.
Well, this one, like, they can't show this skit anymore because it's too politically incorrect.
Oh, jeez. It's only like 2030. I can't. And Saturday Night Live is like so fucking left wing anymore. Like obnoxiously so.
Yeah. I haven't been watching it, but based on what I've heard about Saturday Night Live and about late night talk TV in general, is that they're not really trying to do comedy so much anymore as they are trying to just preach from a soapbox about leftism.
Yeah, and I mean the ratings are ass for this stuff. Like Saturday Night Live's ratings are just absolute dog shit.
Just all, get woke, go broke. You know how it goes.
Yep, that's how it goes.
Speaking of which, have you heard of Get Woke, Go Broke? Have you heard of the latest fiasco with EA and Battlefield 5?
Yeah, isn't there like a fucking disabled woman on the cover of it or something?
Yeah, she's got a fucking claw hand.
It's supposed to be World War II. It's like, get the fuck out of here, man. I mean, I wasn't going to play Battlefield 5 anyways because I have taste.
They made her look like Merle Dixon from The Walking Dead with that claw hand of hers.
She has a robotic penis.
It's like if you absolutely want to do some diversity, you could have like levels based on the Tuskegee Airmen or something. No, you got to have a blue hair fucking Tumblrette who's an otherkin headmate or some horse shit in it, don't you? Like, get fucked, EA.
Yeah, actually, EA was never really popular with gamers. It was like they just made their name by selling like these disposable sports games back in the early 2000s to non-gaming posers.
In all fairness, I have to admit I do own an EA sports game on my game shelf. I have NHL 97 on the Genesis by EA.
They go back that far? Damn.
Oh god! Oh yeah! The NHL '94 is actually was like the first. It was the first really popular hockey game, I guess, or how I should put it. It was the first truly great sports game. Like for its time, it was amazing. So much so that supposedly like NHL 14 actually had like an unlockable, like you could play the complete NHL 94 as an unlockable thing on it. It was like a 20th anniversary thing. The EA hockey games on the Genesis were fantastic. Um, Not so much on the Super Nintendo. Super Nintendo it was always a touch slower. You gotta love that Genesis blast processing, but Genesis handled the basketball and hockey games a lot better.
So are you saying that Genesis had a faster FPS than Super Nintendo?
I don't know if it was FPS, but it was definitely there was just some Genesis could handle a lot more sprites on the screen moving faster. Um,
You're talking about FPS, frames per second.
yeah, I don't know if it was FPS or just handling the sheer amount of sprites. I'm not a technical guy, but I know like if you were to compare like let's say NHL 97, if you were to compare the Super Nintendo and the Genesis version, you definitely see the Genesis version just moves faster and smoother. It might be FPS. It might. I don't know. Like
I mean,
I'd have to sit like really look at it. And again, I'm not a technical guy. I just um,
well, to come think of it, Genesis is known for Sonic games, and Sonic games were like when Sonic first came out, that was like the most fast-paced game back in the day.
well, yeah. There's supposedly they called it their blast processing, but supposedly they could actually process things faster than the Super Nintendo. I mean, the Super Nintendo had a lot of technical leg ups on the Genesis. I mean, it had more of a color palette. It had I basically it had a better sound system. I think the Genesis had this weird twangy electronic sound that I think a lot of really talented composers made incredible soundtracks with. But there's no denying that on a technical level, the Super Nintendo had better sound.
Yeah, I remember on the Genesis, I used to play the Sonic games. I played the old Batman game for, I believe it was a tie-in with the first Batman movie with Michael Keaton.
It was probably Batman Returns. I know that was. I think that was the first real Batman game on the Genesis.
Yeah, well, that's a different game. There's also one that ties in with the first movie.
Oh, you're right. It's basically like the NES game, but with better graphics. Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that one.
And there was a couple cool games. Actually, I was one of the biggest la like how excuse, how do I say this? I was one of the last holdouts for Sega. Like I was loyal to them I was rooting for them during Sega Saturn when they were losing badly to PlayStation, and also like I wanted a Dreamcast, but I just ended up going with a PlayStation 2. But
Well, I kind of missed
they,
out on the whole fifth generation of games because I was sort of getting to like a teenager at that point. My dad was like, "I'm not buying new video games anymore," because typical boomer, video games are the devil. And I already had like comics and shit like that I was spending all my disposable income on. So I just sort of never got into the fifth generation of games at all. I only had like a couple on the PC. Um, but there's a game on the Sega Saturn. I want to see if it's on Steam or something because I'd love to try and play it. There was a game called Bug, and it was one of the very early attempts at a 3D platformer. But like it kept you, it like forced you to be on these narrow paths. And then like every time you like would turn on these paths, the camera would shift in a big way and all. But I don't know. I remember playing it at a buddy's house, and I'd love to see how it holds up.
have you been playing Hollow Knight?
Hollow Knight.
Oh, I just got that one.
Yeah, I don't think I
Yeah,
haven't played that. No.
uh, indie game that was released sometime within the recently. Let me see.
Right now, I'm playing through Owlboy. Somebody got me that off the wish list. I'm still playing Breath of the Wild. I'm playing through the 2010 Rocket Knight, and I'm gonna be doing King's Quest 5 on the arcade stuff on the live streams.
So Hollow Knight's from 2017. It's a Metrovania game, so it's like a 2D side scroller. And I'm surprised how fun it is compared to like I was playing some of the more modern AAA games on my PC and frustrating and not very fun. And I just pick up Hollow Knight on the Nintendo Switch, and it's just so much more fun to play Hollow Knight than to play a lot of these AAA titles.
Well, yeah, modern AAA games there's just no soul to it.
Like the one really bad AAA game I played lately was Fallout 4, and it's just so to get to where you need to go. It's like so open world that you don't even know where you're going. That's how open world it is. Have you ever played games like that where it's too open world?
Not really, but I don't. I know what you're talking about. Like I've seen enough of games like that where, yeah, and there's something about where it's like you don't even necessarily have enough of an objective. So, I mean, I love dicking off. I love going off the beaten path, but when there is no beaten path, you really can't do that.
I felt like
Yeah.
I felt like Ukulele, even though it's not open world, it was so large. It was kind of hard to tell what to do next or where to go.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people say that about that. A lot of people said that was extremely disappointing.
It was too big. There's just no direction.
Well, it is getting late, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. Plus, I've been going on for an hour and a half now. All right, so folks, if you enjoy the content I put out, do consider checking out the tip jars down below. PayPal, Patreon, Amazon wishlist, all that good stuff helps me keep doing what I'm doing. And thanks to the callers who hopped in, and thanks to everybody who was in the chat, and thanks to everybody who was listening. And that's all we got for tonight, folks. Bechtloff out.